Okay, so Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulil Kareem wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Okay, so guys, Alhamdulillah, finally you guys can hear me. Now, the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, I just want to summarize what we've covered so far. So Yusuf alayhi salam, he is a son. His father's name is Yaqub alayhi salam. He has 11 brothers, we know. We don't know much about his mother. Nor do we know much about the exact location where he is. What we do know is that his father loved him a lot. And what this led to was his brothers being jealous of him. Now his brothers were the brothers from his father, but their mothers were different. Okay, so they were like stepbrothers that he had. So the father was the same, mothers were different. And the thing that we have to remember about Yusuf alayhi salam is that Yusuf alayhi salam, he was someone who was very young, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given him a very amazing gift, and that gift was the gift of Nubuwah. And this is seen in the beginning of the story when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows Yusuf alayhi salam a dream, amazing dream. He sees 11 stars, sun and the moon, and they're all prostrating to Yusuf alayhi salam. So this incident that takes place, or this dream that takes place, Yusuf alayhi salam, his father tells him, you know what, you better not tell anyone about this dream. Otherwise, they'll just turn against you, and you just make more enemies with your brothers. Now, his father possibly was unaware that the brothers were actually planning to murder him. Right? They were sick and tired of Yusuf alayhi salam. Eventually, what they done was they didn't murder him, but they threw him in a well, which was next to murder, and left him to die. Some travelers came, picked him up. They've taken him away. They've sold him in Egypt. And what's happened is, over there he's been bought by one of the ministers of Egypt. His wife takes him home. He grows up. Now he's very beautiful, very handsome. She becomes passionate about him. She wants to commit fornication with him. He escapes several times. Eventually, he is forced to go prison, even though he was innocent of any crime that was committed. He was innocent, but this was to save his iman, save his faith with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his obedience to Allah. Then in prison, he meets two people. He happens to interpret a dream for them, and that results in later on the king finding out that he can interpret dreams. He was asked to interpret a dream for the king. This was the turning point for Yusuf alayhi salam. He interprets the dream as 7 years of harvest they're going to have, and 7 years of drought they're going to have, so 14 years altogether. And eventually the 15th year, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was going to replenish the land of the nutrients and everything had taken away. So this was going to be the interpretation of the dream. So now the king was so impressed with Yusuf alayhi salam and his story and his background and what he'd been through, that Yusuf alayhi salam requested to the king that, look, make me in charge of the treasury, make me in charge of the affairs, and I personally myself will take care of everything. So this is what he done. He trusted him, and he said, I have the two qualities, hafidhun, aminun. I am trustworthy, and I am someone who is very able to take care of all the affairs and keep an eye on the harvest. And eventually what happened was, this is where we left it up to. Right, everyone got up to there? Okay, so now after this, what happens is the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam. So we're starting from over here. Okay, so the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam, they come to Egypt now. So Allah says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Allah says, وَجَاءَ إِخْوَةُ يُوسُفَ فَدَخَلُوا عَلَيْهِ فَعَرَفَهُمْ وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ. The brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam entered upon him. Entered from where? They came all the way from Canaan, all the way from the north, from Palestine. They traveled all the way south to Egypt. دَخَلُوا عَلَيْهِ, they entered upon him. فَعَرَفَهُمْ, he recognized them. وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ, whilst they themselves were totally unaware of who Yusuf alayhi salam was. Yeah, totally oblivious to Yusuf alayhi salam, but he recognized them. Now, I don't want to spend too much time in going into too many details, because sometimes if you go into too many details, it can not only it's going to make the lesson very, very long, but it's also going to have you know, turn some people off as well. So we need to keep everyone on and alert, inshallah. So waja'a. Now the word ja'a over here in Arabic, you guys all know what ja'a means, don't you? Yeah. Ja'a in Arabic means to come. Yeah. So to come from a place. Like for example, if I say I came from the shop, or I went to the shop rather. Yeah. In Arabic, if you want to say you went to the shop, you say dhahaba. And if you want to say someone came, you say ja'a. Now there's another word in Arabic which is quite frequently used as well, and that word is ata. Does anyone know what the difference between ja'a and ata is? So if you do, put it in the comments, inshallah. Ja'a and ata, there's a subtle difference between the usage of these two words, and very important to understand the differences between these two words, or rather the words of the Quran, in fact, because what that does, it gives you a deeper understanding of the Arabic language itself. And if your Arabic language is solid, if you understand the Arabic language at a very great level in detail, what that does, it helps you understand in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in the Quran, and it makes the Quran totally clear in what it's trying to say, or what it's saying. So ja'a here, over here, ja'a and ata, the difference between the two. So the difference between the two is that the word ja'a in Arabic, when you have a word and that word, it has letters that are heavy in meaning. So for example, like if you say ata, it's very easy to say on the tongue. Ta. So the comes from the throat, ta on the teeth, and it's a flowing sound that comes out the mouth. Okay, like, you know, the air coming from your lungs, coming out your mouth, very easy. However, ja'a, it has a heavy sound. Ja'a has a heavy sound, so ja. That jim itself is quite a heavy sound. So ja'a has a heavy sound. So this is why the tones that each word gives, the sounds that each word gives, is actually something which affects the meanings of words as well. Okay, so you can actually have a word, you can actually understand the gist of a word just by listening to the sounds of certain words in the Quran. So therefore, ja'a, because it has a heavy sound, ja'a is used in the Arabic language to mean coming from a place, to come to something with a lot of effort. Okay, so when there's a lot of effort, a lot of struggle, a lot of difficulty behind coming, a lot of trouble, going through a lot of trouble in something. So then they use the word ja'a. Okay, so ja'a is used over there. Just like, for example, the story of Maryam alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that فَأَجَاءَهَا الْمَخَاضُ. That's from the bab if'al. أَجَاءَهَا الْمَخَاضُ. The labor pains forced her towards the tree. Yeah, so that's the word ja'a. Now the word ata is a lighter word. So it actually has the meaning of coming, but in a more easier way. So ata is used in a much easier way, but ja'a is when a person goes through a bit of trouble. That's one difference. A second difference between ja'a and ata is that the word ja'a, it actually is used for something that's physical, tangible. So it's usually used for human beings, animals, things which are tangible. You use the word ja'a yaji'u for. And ata, on the other hand, can be used for something which is tangible, and it can also be used for abstract ideas as well. Okay, abstract concepts, ideas, things which are not physically tangible in the real world. So that's the difference between the two. And so ja'a ikhwatu Yusuf, why does Allah bring this here? Maybe you can put it in the comments. Okay, why do you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses this word over here as well? Okay, so is the sound okay, guys? Yeah, sound okay? Just to make sure you guys are awake as well. Alright, so ja'a ikhwatu Yusuf. So we'll come back to that. You guys, in that case, try to tell me, why does Allah use the word ja'a here instead of ata? The next word, ikhwatu Yusuf. Now in the Quran, it's quite interesting. There's two words that are used for brothers in the Quran. Now one of the words that's used for brothers in the Quran is ikhwa, like Allah uses over here. So you can see here. Well, you should be able to see here. Okay, so here is this word here, ikhwa, with the arrows. Okay, here the word ikhwa is used, and there's another word in the Quran that's also used, which is Ikhwan. Ikhwan. Okay, so ikhwan is used and ikhwa is used. Now, ikhwan in the Arabic language and ikhwa, although they're translated both as brothers, there's a subtle difference between the two. Ikhwa is used when a relationship between two people is blood relations. Like, a brother, someone who's born from the same mother or father. Those are known as the ikhwa. Just like in the Quran when Allah talks about the shares of inheritance, giving it to the brothers and the sisters, etc. Over there Allah uses ikhwa. However, ikhwan is generally used for a brotherly relationship. Right? Just like, for example, you know someone for a very long time and you're with them all the time, and so someone says that person is your brother. So brother does not necessarily mean you're born from the same mother or you've got the same father, but it just means someone who is a very close friend, acquaintance of yours. So that for that word you use ikhwan in the Quran. Okay, so the Quran whenever it uses that ikhwan. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the word ikhwa. So جاء إخوة Yusuf, the brothers of Yusuf came. فدخلوا عليه, they entered upon him. Fa. Now fa is used over here in the Arabic language because fa is a letter of the ataf, what they call the ataf. Okay, so like and or. So these are the letters of ataf in the Arabic language. And fa actually comes for an action occurring immediately after another. So when something occurs immediately after another action, it's used the word fa. So for example, like let's say I ate the biscuit and then I drank the tea and then I washed my hands, right? I would use fa after each one of them. Fa, I ate the biscuit, fa, I did this, fa. But if there's a delay between two actions, so two actions occur one after the other, but there's a slight delay between the two, then what you say is actually you use the word thumma. Thumma is used. Okay, so thumma actually means an action occurring after another one, but it can even be after a day or 2 or 10 years even. And you say thumma, you won't say fa. Remember that. So fa has to be immediately after. So here, فَدَخَلُوا عَلَيْهِ. In other words, as soon as the brothers came, دَخَلُوا عَلَيْهِ, they entered upon Yusuf. Now, Mufassirin mentioned what condition was Yusuf in. They say maybe he was sitting on a particular place which was allocated for him because he was a minister in the government. So now he had a specific position that he used to place, that he used to sit monitoring everything. Because if you remember, Yusuf alayhi salam, he said to the king that I will monitor everything. I am very good at monitoring things and I will take a record, an account of every single thing that's taking place. So he took it as his duty that he'd be doing that. So anyway, دخلوا عليه فعرفهم. So they recognized him, or he recognized them, عرفهم. وهم له منكرون. Okay, now guys, if I'm going too fast or if I'm going into too much depth, then you guys must say something. Yeah, don't feel shy, don't worry, inshallah. Because what I want is you guys to be able to understand the words of Allah Ta'ala. And because I teach different levels of students, sometimes I actually forget who my audience is, especially when you're teaching online. Just because you can see names, it doesn't mean you can see the reaction of people's faces. Okay, so you must always, be typing stuff up and mentioning to me if you're understanding it, or if you want me to clarify anything, inshallah, if you have any questions as well. Okay, so let's get back to this then. So what happened? Now, the word Arafa in the Arabic language, Arafa, it actually means, according to Imam Raghib al-Asfahani, he's a famous scholar. He lived in roughly the 6th century, roughly the time of Imam Ghazali. So if you know who Imam Ghazali is, yeah, he lived in roughly the same time zone in the 6th century, 5th, 6th century, Hijri, that is, after the demise of the Prophet ﷺ. So he says that Arafah actually means to understand something after contemplating. So to recognize something, contemplating, and to look at certain things inside of something and then recognizing it. So for example, like imagine you had, let's say, a pen. Sometimes you have a pen and in class there's a few people that've got the same pen. So the pens are on the floor. So you look at your pen and there's some distinguishing feature on your pen that distinguishes it from all the rest of the pens. So when you see that distinguishing feature, the Arabs say Arafa. Okay, so over there you'd use the word arafa over there. So arafa actually doesn't mean just not recognizing or acknowledging. It actually means to ponder over something and then to recognize. So this is why, based on that meaning, what we say here is that Yusuf alayhi salam's brothers, what he experienced with them was, as soon as they came in, he didn't really know straight away that they were them. Okay, he was unaware that those were his brothers. It was only when he recognized certain features they had. Yeah, they were 10 in number and they looked very similar, and he recognized these features and then he recognized them. فَعَرَفَهُمْ. And this is why in the Arabic language, when you bring a verb, there's a difference between, those of you guys who know jumla ismiya, jumla fi'liya, you know that, don't you guys? Yeah. Well, if you don't know, let me explain to you. In a sentence in Arabic, there's two types of sentences that you get. You don't usually get these sentences in English, because let's say, for example, I wanted to say in Arabic, if I said Zaid ate the fish. Zaid ate the fish. Okay, now in English I can only say it in one way. I can just say Zaid ate the fish. But in Arabic there's two ways to say it. You can say Zaid ate the fish, or you can say ate Zaid the fish. Right, so you can say Zaid ate the fish, or you can say ate Zaid the fish. There's a difference between the two types of sentences. If you say ate Zaid the fish, what that basically means that Zaid, this guy called Zaid, he's got this fish in front of him, and he ate the fish within a certain amount of time. Okay, he ate it. He did the action of eating, and that was done, and then it was over. So it tells you temporary sort of action of eating. So that's what you get with verbs. With verbs, you get the meaning of words, but you get it more temporarily. In other words, it was done, dusted, it's over now. But if you say this, if you say the other way, Zaid ate the fish, you bring the noun forward instead of the verb, then what it means is this: Zaid ate the fish. Zaid was someone who ate the fish. In other words, this is a quality which is stuck to Zaid now for a very long time. He is known as someone who ate the fish. Zaid ate the fish. So it has more of a continuity and permanency, and it's more of a stronger sentence in Arabic. It's actually considered to be more of a stronger sentence than a verb-based sentence. So if you look at this over here, then I just hope that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, don't worry about it, guys. I'm sure you guys have had loads of nice sleep in your life, right, without even knowing this masala. And I'm sure if you didn't understand this masala, you'll get a very nice sleep as well. Right, so anyway, let's get back to this then. So if you go to this word over here, he says that فَعَرَفَهُمْ وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ. فَعَرَفَهُمْ. Okay, what's happened here? It disappeared. Okay, so he says فَعَرَفَهُمْ. So Arafa, he recognized them. In other words, there was a point where they came in where he didn't recognize them, and then all of a sudden he saw some features and recognized them. Now imagine this happens. Imagine you haven't seen your loved ones for years and years and years and years, and you know all of a sudden you see some people walking, and you're looking at them and you're thinking to yourself, you know what, I recognize those people, I recognize them. And then it clicks. Oh yeah, these are my brothers or these are my sisters, and you haven't seen them for a long time. Arafah. Imagine the emotions that he's going through now, the excitement he's going through, the happiness, and at the same time he's remembering what they've done to him as well. So فَعَرَفَهُمْ وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ. And he says وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ. Again, I have to explain this as well. Wow, this is called a wow haliya. This is wow haliya. It basically means the meaning of whilst. Yeah, so whilst hum lahu munkirun, whilst they were unable to recognize him, whilst they could not recognize him, whilst they did not recognize him. Now this sentence is actually a jumla ismiya. So again, like I said to you guys, jumla ismiya has more of a permanency. In other words, they not only did not recognize him when they entered, they continuously could not recognize him. So Allah uses the Jumla Ismiya form, and instead of saying وَهُمْ lahu yunkirun, He says munkirun to show the permanency of this, that these are people that still could not recognize Yusuf alayhi salam. Now it's obvious why they could not recognize him and he could recognize them, because he was young and his features would have been different. And as for them, they would have been older, so their features would have been more mature features, more long-lasting permanent features. So to be able to recognize them was easier for him, and for them to recognize him would have been harder, because now his features have changed. Maybe he's got more facial hair, maybe he's got some other features which weren't there when he was young, and so now they're unable to recognize him. Now here Allah could have said this. He could have said وَهُمْ مُنْكِرُونَ لَهُ. So over here, if you can see, وَهُمْ مُنْكِرُونَ لَهُ. Again, all of what I am going through, the only reason I'm going through these little points here is for you guys to appreciate, or to have some sort of understanding of how important it is to be able to understand the subtle differences in the changing of words in the Arabic language. So if one word appears before another, what does it mean? If a sentence is a ism based sentence, a noun based sentence, what does that mean? If it's a verb based sentence, what does that mean? So all of these different changes that you have in a sentence have a very big impact on what the actual sentence means. And if you're unable to see this, then all you'll be doing is you'll just be translating the verses like an English translation. So وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ. So here what I want to point out is, why does Allah bring this word lahu forward? Lahu. So maybe you can put it in the comments. Right, let's go back to this one then. So ja'a. So the word ja'a, why was the word ja'a used over here? Because the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam, they traveled all the way from Canaan down to Egypt. This must have been a long journey, weeks possibly, weeks on end, traveling, and then going through the hardship, difficulty. There was a famine going on, there was a drought, and so they were actually forced to come all over there to seek to get the food from there. So Allah is actually drawing a picture here of the hardships they were going through to travel all the way from there. And look at how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sets everything up for Yusuf alayhi salam's dream to manifest. So all of the things that happened in Yusuf alayhi salam's life, remember, were happening to show Yusuf alayhi salam that Allah is in control of the entire universe. And every single thing that happens in our life, every single little issue that happens in our life, it all happens with a decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with a precise precision, taqdeer of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even the rain that's falling outside, the sun when it's out, when it's windy, when it's cold, when it's hot, when we're ill, when we're healthy, all of these things play a big role in how our lives are shaped. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here, He brings the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam to him. After all of that, He brings them to him. Okay, so let's go back to this one then, the lahu. So the lahu is brought forward for exclusivity. In other words, they specifically Yusuf were unable to recognize. Out of everyone, they could have recognized anyone else, but specifically when it came to Yusuf alayhi salam, they could not tell. Now some of the Mufassirin say the reason for this, like I mentioned earlier, the features of Yusuf alayhi salam had changed, and it's very difficult to be able to, sometimes some people say, oh, you can spot them, you can recognize them through their eyes or whatever features, but not everyone can do that. Yeah, even the close brothers and sisters, sometimes when features change, it's very difficult to spot, and especially Yusuf alayhi salam might have had a beard at that time as well, so it would have covered up a lot of his features when he was young. So anyway, وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ, Allah says that they totally were oblivious, unable to recognize, especially Yusuf alayhi salam. Some Mufassirin actually mention that Allah had cast into their hearts the lack of ability to recognize Yusuf. This was deliberately done by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so they could not actually recognize Yusuf, because this was how the whole of the dream was to manifest. So anyway, so this was the situation. They've come in, Yusuf alayhi salam recognized them, they're in need of Yusuf alayhi salam, Yusuf alayhi salam does not need them. Now imagine you're in this situation and someone has done this to you, someone has abused you, your family have abused you. You'd have so much negative emotions about these people that you'd probably want to harm them, deliberately harm them, just to satisfy your own desire of giving them pain. But Yusuf alayhi salam isn't like that. So Allah says, وَلَمَّا جَهَّزَهُمْ بِجَهَازِهِمْ قَالَ ائْتُونِي بِأَخٍ لَكُمْ مِنْ أَبِيكُمْ. So when he jahaza, well, let me translate this first of all, and then I'll explain the meanings of the words. So he says, وَلَمَّا جَهَّزَهُمْ, that when he equipped them, لَمَّا جَهَّزَهُمْ, when he, meaning Yusuf alayhi salam, equipped them with their provisions, with their equipment for a journey back from Egypt all the way to Canaan. Qala, he said, so Yusuf alayhi salam said to them, I'tuni bi akhillakum, bring your brother, the brother from your father, bring him to me. Ala tawruna, don't you see, anni ufil kail, that I fulfill the measure, I fill up the measure that you guys want, and ana khairul munzilin, and I am the best of hosts. Am I not like that? So see, what Allah is doing here is this is the kind of expressions that the Arabs use. This actually shows us that there's actually more that went on, and Allah hinting by using certain words is hinting here to conversation and dialogue that went on between Yusuf alayhi salam and the brothers. Okay, what dialogue would have went on? So because he mentioned this issue here, that bring your brother, in other words, Yusuf alayhi salam, he's found out that these guys have another brother. And some of the Mufassirin mentioned that it's possibly the conversation went on where, when someone comes from far away, you ask them questions, you talk to them. Oh, where are you from? Okay. Oh, how many brothers and sisters do you have? Okay. So they probably said they've had 12 brothers. One of them was killed, which was Yusuf. And the other one is with our father. And then there's 10 of us that have come here. So he recognized them. So this is why he deliberately said, bring akhillakum min abikum. Bring the brother of yours from your father. In other words, next time you come, you must bring that brother of yours from your father. Why did he want this to happen? Now, it could have been many reasons, but I think one of the main reasons that he done this was so that he could reunite with this brother who was considered to be from the same mother. So he was Binyamin and Yusuf, and they were considered, according to the Mufassirin, to be born from the same mother. So he said, bring this brother to me. And the second reason why he probably most likely said this was because Yusuf alayhi salam wanted them to return to him as well, because he still had love for them. So this was the way to bring them back again to him. So he said, "I'tuni bi akhillakum, bring your brother back to me." So the brother from your father, the specific one that's from your father, not any brother that's from another mother. So maybe they had brothers, which are from their mothers, but not from Yaqub alayhi salam. I don't want you to bring those, but the one that is from Yaqub alayhi salam, bring him. Another hint over here we can see is that he didn't say i'tuni bi akhikum. Okay, because akhin lakum, this shows that Yusuf alayhi salam wanted to hide from them that he still did not know their family very well, even though obviously he's Yusuf alayhi salam, he's born and brought up there. So he's trying to camouflage his words by using an expression which would not make them understand that this is Yusuf alayhi salam. So akhil lakum, brother that you have from your father. And also by saying bi akhil lakum, Yusuf alayhi salam is a brother as well. So he didn't say bi akhikum min abikum, because that would also refer to Yusuf alayhi salam. So he wanted them to bring Binyamin. Anyway, so that's the first thing. The second thing is that he wanted to motivate them. So first of all, when you're talking to someone and you want someone to do something, what do? You tell them how good you've been to them. You remind them of your favors that you've done for them. So he says, Ala tarawna, Yusuf alayhi salam says to them, don't you see, anni ufil kail, that I fill the measure. Filling the measure refers to the food that they came for, the rations they came for, that he would give people a certain amount. And when it came to them, that he gave them a full amount. Ufil kayl, that I fulfill, I give you a full amount. Whatever that amount was, the Quran doesn't go into it. So I give you a full kayl. In other words, this is how good I am. That if you guys come back to me, I'll give you some more. The second, Ana khairul munzilin. So Ana khairul munzilin, I am the best host that you can have. So I am the best host that you can have. Why does he say this for? This is indication towards how kind he was to the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam. So being kind to the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam, this was deliberate by him. One is because obviously he had love for them, affection for them. But also this is how Yusuf alayhi salam was with anyone who used to come from outside. This is how he used to treat them. He used to treat them with kindness, respect. Khairul munzilin. So these are two qualities of Yusuf alayhi salam that Yusuf alayhi salam had. And because of this, he had lots of love people had for him. And also these brothers began to love him as well. So now Yusuf alayhi salam's brothers are starting to understand, you know what? This guy's Yusuf, well, they didn't know his name. He had another title named that he was given, the Minister of Treasury or whatever. So, you know, this minister, he's a really top guy, man. You know, every time we ask something for him, he gives us it. He's given us a bedding, he's given us a place to stay, he gives us food whilst we're here in Egypt. This guy's a top guy. So now they've got love for him, and they know that he doesn't have any, you know, some alternative or some another type of, you know, agenda that he's hiding away. And a khairul munzilin. Okay, again, if you notice these two sentences are jumla ismiyas again. So in anni ufil kayl, that I am someone who always fulfills the kayl, who fills the measure. And ana khairul munzilin, and I am khairul munzilin. Now, the difference in the two, so they're both jumla ismiyas, so there's the meaning of permanency in both of them. But the difference between the two is one he says inni or anni ufil kayl, and the other one is ana khairul munzilin. So anni, this indicates towards emphasis, meaning that he is making them understand that, look, he is not going to cheat them at all in this. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that as a bonus, Yusuf alayhi salam is known for someone who hosts people. So he doesn't have to emphasize the hosting part, because they haven't come to be hosted. They didn't come to Egypt to get a place to stay in. They actually came just for the kayl, the measurement. So in other words, here he emphasizes it to show them that he's not going to cheat them, because if that's going through their mind, they need to get that straight from day one. And the second thing is that ana khairul munzilin, that I am someone who's a very good host. So because I'm this kind of guy, then you know, come back, bring your brother as well. The other thing over here is to understand is that, are we allowed to praise ourselves as well? Yeah, are we allowed to praise ourselves? So here Yusuf alayhi salam seems to be praising himself. Anni ufil kayl, I am someone who fulfills the kayl, fills the measure. Wa ana khairul munzilin, and I am the best host you can get. So the ulama mention over here, very good, okay, so reassurance. The ulama mention over here that this telling people someone about your good qualities is actually allowed at certain times. Like for example, let's say you're in a situation where you're looking for a job. So you're going for the interview. You don't become humble and you say, oh, you know, I've come to work as a mechanic and I don't know much about mechanics. So you're being humble there to show, you know, the lack of knowledge you have. You know, you tell them, you go, right, you know, I've studied this, I've done this, I've got this much experience, I know how to do this. And so you explain the whole thing to them, and this would not come under being arrogant or showing pride. Yeah, so sometimes it's actually important for you to show your qualifications to other people if there is a legitimate reason for that. And here there was a legitimate reason, because Yusuf alayhi salam wanted the brothers to come back another time, and this was the only way that was going to happen if Yusuf alayhi salam, he explained this to them and he clarified all of this. So I hope that makes sense. So anyway, he says that Ana khairul munzilin. Now this is unlike Iblis. If you remember Iblis, where he said Ana khairun minhu, I am better than Adam. Now Allah did not like that, because it was not his place to show that he was better than Adam. And that was purely done out of arrogance reasons. So out of arrogance, Iblis, he says to Allah, I'm not going to prostrate to Adam because I myself am better than Adam. Here, Yusuf alayhi salam was not showing any sort of arrogance to the brothers. Rather, he was actually showing humbleness as well. That he is someone who honors guests and he hosts them and he does all of this for them. And also to show them that look, that the Yusuf alayhi salam had the ability to shoo them away from Egypt, kick them out of Egypt, or just give them, a fraction of what he gave them. But he didn't. He was very kind, very generous, and he did all of this. Now, going back to this word now, فَلَمَّا وَلَمَّا جَهَّزَهُمْ بِجَهَازِهِمْ. Jahaza, it means to equip. Okay, jahaz. And it has two specific things inside that word which are very important to understand. One is, jahaza means that you prepare something for a journey. Okay, so something is prepared for a journey and it's prepared in such a way that it's made solid. Okay, so basically, let's say for example you're going on a journey, and sometimes sometimes you don't have space in your boot, so you have that top rack on top of your car. So what you do is you get like the suitcase or whatever, you place it on top of the rack and then you tie it firmly. That would have the meaning of tajheez in there. Jahaza yujahizu, to firmly prepare something for a journey. Jahaza. And secondly, the word jahaza or jahaz, it has the meaning of being prominent as well. It can be seen from far. Just like, when someone's going on a journey to the airport and you bring all the suitcases at your house and all the neighbors can see the suitcases and you're putting them into the car and everyone can see it from far. That word, you'd actually use jahaza for that. So, لَمَّا جَهَّزَهُمْ بِجَهَازِهِمْ. So he says, when he equipped them bijahazihim, with all what they needed for a journey. This actually shows two things about Yusuf alayhi salam. Number one, Yusuf alayhi salam was his humbleness, that he specifically took their gear, took their luggage, and he put it onto their camel. Now he may not have done it, but he might have got the servants to do it. But he took care of that as well, so that these people don't have to go through the trouble of loading their own gear. So that it was done for them, jahazahum bijahazihim. And also it shows that secondly, he wanted them to see that he wanted goodness for them. Okay, so he wanted goodness for them so that next time they come back for more. And this is also something which is very important for us to learn as well in life, which is that if you're someone who is dealing with someone else, always go the 1 mile further for them. Okay, always try and do more for them than they can do for you. So he actually went through the trouble of doing more for them. They've actually come, they're the ones in need. He's not in need of them, right? Because his storage of food that he's got is going to suffice for them, for Egypt and for anyone else. So this is just 10 brothers. But again, he's doing his best he can for them. Just like they say that, do for others what they can't do for you. So this is what he's doing on their behalf as well. And this is how we should treat other people as well in life. Sometimes we have certain arguments with people. We have like a tennis match we play, that if you don't do this for me, I'm not going to do this for you. Oh, he didn't come to my house for Eid, so why should I go to his house for Eid? Or she didn't come to our wedding, and why should I go to her wedding for? And these little tit for tat and these tennis games that we play. These are all little things that are not really from the qualities of a true Muslim. Yeah, true Muslim should always be someone وَلَا تَمْنُن تَسْتَكْثِرْ. Yeah, never ever try and do a favor for someone because you expect something in return. Okay, so that's the next verse. Anyway, so after this, what happens is that فَإِن لَمْ تَأْتُونِي بِهِ, he says that if you do not bring him to me, meaning if you don't bring your brother to me, فَلَا كَيْلَ لَكُمْ عِنْدِي وَلَا تَقْرَبُونَ, then there will be no kail at all for you with me, no taqrabun, nor can you come close. Now what does this mean? So what he is saying over here, now he's mentioning the threat now. So first of all, now he mentions the good things to motivate them to return back to Egypt. Then what he says to them is like, listen, if you don't bring your brother next time, forget coming here again. you're going to have no kale at all. You're going to have no measurement at all. In other words, I'm not going to give you a penny. I'm not going to give you a grain of rice. Indi wala taqrabun. Nor can you even come close to Egypt. Don't even bother coming close to Egypt. So this is like something you say to someone, you know, like if someone does something to you and you say to them, right, listen, if you ever do that to me again, don't even think of having dinner at my house again. Don't even think of coming close to my house again. Meaning, I don't want to see you ever again. It's cut off between me and you. So this was the threat that he left them with. So now obviously there's nothing to lose for them. If he's going to treat them very well, if he's going to be kind to them, if he's going to honor them and host them and do all these things for them, what have they got to lose? They've got nothing to lose. Might as well go for it. Now, فَلَا كَيْلَ, in the Arabic language, this la, does anyone know what kind of la this is? La kayla. Okay, kayl has a single fath on there. So la kayla, anyone know what that is? Okay, so again, over here, he uses the word ta'tuni, which means to come. And over there, Allah said ja'a. So the reason the difference between the two is because the first time you go to a place is always difficult. Yeah, the first time you have to go on a long journey and you go somewhere, it's always difficult. So ja'a is used over there. And over here, now the second time they're going to come, they'll know the route. If they got lost last time, you know, it won't happen again. And, you know, the second time, third time, fourth time, it becomes much easier to travel the journey. So Allah, Yusuf alayhi salam says, فَإِن لَمْ تَأْتُونِي بِهِ. He doesn't say, فَإِن لَمْ تَجِئُونِي بِهِ. Okay, to give the meaning of that the second journey is always easier. And this is precision of Allah's words in the Quran. Now, we also mentioned in the Torah, in the Bible, the Old Testament, it's mentioned over there that there was actually only one journey that was made to Egypt. Whereas the Quran mentions at least 3 journeys that were made by the brothers. So, the la kayla, going back to this again. La kayl, the la, this is called la nafi al-jins. Okay, so kayla, no kayl at all for you, indi, with me. In other words, there will be no kayl at all, not even a small amount, nothing. Now, why does he mention these two things for? Why does he say la kayla and don't come near? Why does he say to them, I'm not going to give you a thing and don't even bother coming near Egypt again? Why does he mention these two things? This is quite an interesting thing that the Mufassirin have mentioned, because every single word in the Quran is purposeful. It's there for a reason. There is wisdom behind it. Nothing in the Quran is there for extra. Nothing in the Quran is za'id in the Quran, excess in the Quran. It's all perfect, precise, precision. It's like a perfect, you know, an engine of a car. Perfect engine. If one bolt or one piece is actually removed, it'll have a big impact on the rest of the car. So the Quran is so perfect. If one word was to be removed, it'll have a big impact on the rest of the Quran. Okay, so why mention these two things? So the reason is, okay, so famine everywhere. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a good point. There was famine everywhere. But why mention these two specific things? What does this have to do with what he said earlier? So the Mufassirin say, okay, Egypt was well off. Definitely very good, excellent. To show that he was not in need of them and they were in need of him. Brilliant, that's a good point there. The Mufassirin mentioned that La kayla lahum indi wa la taqrabun. La kayla, this word La kayla is actually in response to what he said earlier, that Anni ufil kayla. Over there he said, I fill the measure. And over here he said, there is no kale at all. So in other words, I am such a kind person that I fill the kale for the people. Okay, I'm such a kind person that I am someone who fills the kale for the people. And usually, you know, when you think about a very kind person, you'd never imagine them to repel anyone away. If there's a guy who is very, very generous person, a very honorable, very generous person, then that honorable, generous person, even if someone comes to them and they have nothing, they'll always try to find something to give to them. Okay, so they'll always try to find something to give to them. So Allah Ta'ala here, or Yusuf alayhi salam over here, he says that this person who does this thing to me, that I am so generous normally that normally I fill the measure. But if you guys try this with me, I will forget filling your measure. I'm not going to give you a thing. Yeah, so when a generous person says this, yeah, it's more scarier than if a stingy person says this, a miserly person. And the reason why La taqrabun is mentioned is because previously he said Ana khairul munzilin. That in other words, I'm the best host you can get. And you know, when you go to someone's house or you go somewhere and they're hosting you, they're very kind and they overlook your faults, and any criticism you make, they'll ignore it, and then they'll try and please you in any way possible. So from all of a sudden, he changes from someone who is a very brilliant host, number one host, to someone that doesn't want them, the guests, to come to his house. So that's scary as well. So imagine that someone who's very generous, who says to you, I'm not going to give you a penny. And then someone who's a brilliant host says to them, I don't want you to come near my house again. Okay, so this is something which, you know, very interesting how Yusuf alayhi salam brings this language as well, and the effect that this language has on the audience as well. So over here, the effect that it's had on Yusuf alayhi salam is also something amazing, or on the brothers, because now you can understand that now they're going to be thinking, you know what, we might as well go and return back to Egypt, all right, and bring our brother as well. Okay, so yeah, everyone got that? Everyone with me so far? Right. Okay, so let's continue with that then. Next verse. So then they say this. Then Allah Ta'ala says that their response now. So what are they going to say in response? Obviously, they're going to agree. They're going to say, yeah, of course, brilliant. So they say, we will solicit him. قالوا سنراود عنه أباه وإنا لفاعلون. We will solicit him of our father, and we are the doers. وإنا لفاعلون. Now, if you look at their wording is very interesting how Allah brings their wording as well. Nurawidu, this word came before as well. This word came when Zulaykha was trying to fornicate with Yusuf alayhi salam, and she says, Rawadtuhu an nafsihi. Yeah, that I tried to solicit him against his own desires. I tried to, try to have intimacy with him. I tried to force him. So rawada yurawidu is always something which is done deceitfully. It's something that is not done overtly, it's done covertly. So in other words, covertly, we're gonna get our father to agree. So we're gonna trick him, get him to agree. Wa inna lafa'ilun. And we, inna, this is brought for emphasis, we are people who will definitely do it. So again, he brings a jumla ismiya, inna lafa'ilun. He could have said wa sanaf'al, we will do it, but he doesn't. He says inna lafa'ilun. So two things we learn from them. Two things that we learn from them. So number one is that they have this very good, alluding that it will be difficult. Definitely it will be difficult. It's not going to be easy, because they already know that they tried this with Yusuf alayhi salam. He's lost trust in them now since they lost Yusuf alayhi salam, and Yusuf alayhi salam apparently has been eaten by the wolf. He's lost trust in them. So getting the other brother to go with them as well is going to be a mission. But because they've already experienced their father, they know what their father's like. Now they know the tricks of the trade to get their father to agree. Okay, so now they're gonna solicit together against their father, get him to agree, and bring the brother as well. So this shows the deceptive nature. So Yusuf alayhi salam realizes this is what they're like. And the second thing, inna lafa'ilun, that they know definitely 100% that they can do this. And they could have said nahnu lafa'ilun to convince Yusuf alayhi salam that, you know what, you don't worry about a thing. We will 100% guarantee we're going to come back with Yusuf alayhi salam, later on. So this is what Allah is showing about the brothers, that these brothers, these are people who will do anything for that. They will even cheat their father, and they will even lie to people in order just to please Yusuf alayhi salam. So that's also something important for us to remember, the nature of people who are mischievous people, that this is how they think. Anyway, next. قال لفتيانه. So Yusuf alayhi salam, he says to his servants, اجعلوا بضاعتهم في رحالهم. That he says to his servants, place بضاعتهم, their bida'a, the goods that they came with. Okay, and bida'a is referring to the wealth, or the the money that they came with, whatever it was. The Quran doesn't mention what they gave in exchange for the rations or for the food, but they did give something, and this is known as the bida'a. So Allah says that Yusuf alayhi salam says to the servants, ij'alu bida'atahum, get their goods that they gave, the money, whatever they gave, ij'alu fi rihalihim, place it inside of their transport. So rihal, transport. لعلهم يعرفونها, so that maybe they will recognize it. إذا انقلبوا, when they return home, إلى أهلهم لعلهم يرجعون, so that maybe they'll return back to us. So now look at Yusuf alayhi salam's plan now. Now he's tried to convince them verbally now to come back. He's told them what kind of generous person he is, what kind of a host he is. He's also threatened them that if you don't come back again with your brother, right, don't even bother coming to Egypt. You're not going to get a penny from me. So what he does now, he wants them to come. So inside their transport, inside their luggage, inside the food, he's hidden their money again. So their own money that they gave to exchange for the food, he's put it back inside for them. So he said to his fityan, he said to his young men, the servants, اجعلوا بضاعة في رحالهم. Now rihal means that the kind of the wooden platform that's placed on top of a camel. That's called the rihal. Today we understand it as a boot of a car. So rihal. And because there was a lot of them, Allah used the word rihal instead of arhila. And arhila is the plural, but in Arabic you have two types of plurals, or you have a multitude of plurals. Let me just give you an example of a few. You have a plural which is known as a sound plural. A sound plural is a plural that has attached to the end of it waw nun, una, ya nun, ina, or alif ta at. That's called a sound plural, that is. And then you have another type of plural which is known as a broken plural. And broken plurals can be of several types. Okay, so you can have like a super plural, what they call, which is the plural of a plural. Yeah, it's known as a jama muntahal jumu. And there's also another plural which is a plural for something which is from 3 to 10, and a plural which is more than 10. Okay, so this is called jam'ul qillah. Arabs actually have a plural when you have a few things in front of you. So if you have a few things, they call it a jam'ul qillah. And if you have many things, many, then you say another type of plural, but that indicates towards a multitude. You don't get that in English. In English, houses is houses, books are books. Whether it's 2 books, 200 books, you call it books. Whether it's 2 houses, whether it's 200 houses, it's still called houses. But in Arabic, you actually have different levels of plurals. So over here, Allah could have used arhila. Arhila would have mean a plural, a multitude of transport, but it would have been less than 10 or less. And because the brothers were obviously 10, and then there's going to be more people with them, because obviously in them days, remember, people never used to travel in small numbers. They used to travel in big groups, caravans. And the word caravan actually comes from Arabic. Okay, qayrawan, they say. Yeah, that's one root meaning of it, qayrawan. So anyway, so he's traveling large numbers. And so Allah used the word rihal here. Remember, Allah's words are always specific. It gives us an image of what's happening. So they're going to be traveling back. There's lots of them. So inside their goods, they've put their money back. They put whatever they came with, they put it all back. The other thing to understand here is the word rihal. It comes from the word rihla. And does anyone know the difference between safar and rihla? If you do, you can put it in the comments, or you can put it on Facebook, inshallah. And we'll see, what exactly does it mean. Okay, so what happens? So he says, لَعَلَّهُمْ يَعْرِفُونَهَا. Maybe they'll recognize it. Why does he say maybe they'll recognize it? So he says maybe they'll recognize it because what might happen is because the goods that they gave, let's say they gave some money. Sometimes what happens is you give a £5 note or a £10 note to someone, and then you see that £10 note or £5 note a week later or 2 weeks later. You won't recognize it because you never memorize the exact £5 or £10 note that you gave because they all look very similar. Or maybe, for example, like you go and sell something, and then many years later you buy that thing back and you can't really recognize the item. So he says to them, put their stuff back where it was. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَعْرِفُونَ. So maybe they'll recognize it. They'll go back. And when we said عَرَفَ يَعْرِفُ has the meaning of recognizing something by seeing distinguishing features on there. So لَعَلَّهُمْ يَعْرِفُونَهَا, so that maybe they'll recognize it. Why does he want them to recognize their own wealth? Why not just put the money back and just leave it as that? For two reasons. Number one is if, let's say, for example, you went to the shop and you came back from the shop with a bag of goods you bought from the shop, and inside that bag you found a bundle of notes tied up, or a bundle of notes inside of it. Obviously, if it's not yours, if you're a good person, then you'll think to yourself, you know what, this isn't right, this isn't mine. So you'll go to the shop, contact them and say, look, you've accidentally put money in my bag, it doesn't belong to me. And that's the first thing that would happen. So if he had put some other wealth inside of that, maybe put some gold in there or silver in there, the guys would have thought, you know what, this isn't ours, and they'd feel really bad. The second thing is that by putting their own money back inside of it, what will happen is they'll actually think, you know what, this guy's an excellent guy. He's actually given the stuff to us for free. He hasn't taken a penny off us, and he's given us all of this. So why shouldn't we go back to him? Yeah, remember, he wants them to come to Egypt again. So all of these things that he's doing, they're all there to encourage them to return back to Egypt again. So لَعَلَّهُمْ يَعْرِفُونَهَا. But remember this, he doesn't want them to recognize it before they get home. Yeah, so he tells them to put it right inside of their luggage. اجعل بضاعة في رحالهم. You put it yourselves, don't let them put it. So that's why normally, when you go to the shops, they'll say to you, oh, would you like help packing your goods? And then you say, oh no, it's okay, I'm alright. So here what happened was that didn't happen there. Okay, so he says to them that you guys do it. Yeah, so in the shops, you put it yourself because you know what you're putting in your bag. So by them putting it in, they couldn't see it. So now obviously when someone packs your luggage and you get to your destination, that's only when you open your luggage usually, right? Unless you get stopped at the airport, then you gotta open it and check everything. So لَعَلَّهُمْ يَعْرِفُونَهَا, so that they recognize it. إِذَا انْقَلَبُوا إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِمْ, when they return back to their homes, to their families. انقلب ينقلب, it means to go back. Okay, انقلب ينقلب, and it has the meaning of going through different stages, difficulties as well, hardships, because a journey is a long journey, so they're going to be going through different stages. انقلبوا إلى أهلهم, to their family. لعلهم يرجعون, so that maybe they might return. That's what he wants. Yeah, he wants them to return. So now when they get home, if they open their luggage before they got home, they might do a U-turn, come back to Egypt and give the money back again. But when they get home, they're tired, they're exhausted, and then they'll wait. They'll say, you know what, we're going to go back to Egypt anyway, so we might as well wait and then we'll go back later. Okay, so anyway, this is what happens. فَلَمَّا رَجَعُوا إِلَىٰ أَبِيهِمْ, so then Allah says, so immediately after that, لَمَّا رَجَعُوا إِلَىٰ أَبِيهِمْ, when they returned back to their father, إِلَىٰ أَبِيهِمْ, قَالُوا يَا أَبَانَا, oh our father, right, they're excited. مُنِئَ مِنَّ الْكَيْلِ, the kale measure has been stopped from us. We've been banned from any more food from Egypt. مُنِئَ مِنَّ الْكَيْلِ, father, they've given us food this time, but next time it's been banned, unless we take our brother with us. Yeah, the minister of Egypt has said, if you don't bring your other brother, then we're not going to give you a thing. فَأَرْسِلْ مَعَنَا أَخَانَا, so send with us our brother. Now look what they're saying. أرسل معنا أخانا. Yeah, send with us our brother. And I want you to remember that, because later on, it's very interesting how they change their wording when they talk about him. فأرسل معنا أخانا. Send with us our brother. Brother has the meaning of love. Remember, they want to convince their father, isn't it? And remember what they said? They said, سنراود أباه عنه أباه. سنراود. So remember that deceptive nature of theirs. They're going to try and fool their father or convince their father that they need to take their brother. So they've come and said, money amin al kail. You know what? They're not going to give us a thing. You have to send our brother with us. Arsil ma'ana akhana. Our lovely brother, the one that we love. You know, our brother, he's part of our blood. Naktal. So that we can get a measure. Naktal. So that we can get a measure. Now they didn't mention that Yusuf alayhi salam, he fills their measure. They've just said, so that we can get a measure. Yeah, iktala, it means to take a measure. Naktal. So naktal, just like in the Quran, Allah says, إِذَا كَالُوهُمْ أَوْ وَزَنُوهُمْ يُخْسِرُونَ. Yeah, so kala yakilu in Arabic language, the verb kala yakilu comes for giving someone a measure. So measuring out for someone, like let's say you're the shopkeeper and someone comes to you to buy some fruit or veg from you or rice, and you measure it for them. Then in Arabic you would say kala yakilu. But if, for example, you're purchasing the item, you're the customer and you're purchasing the rice, you say iktala yaktalu. Yeah, iktala yaktalu is used specifically for that. Okay, it's used for doing that exact thing, which is basically or not the exact thing, but doing the other way around. Yeah, doing that the other way around. Okay. Yeah, all this time they have not changed. They like that. That's their nature. Yeah, and this is why, remember they said before about Yusuf alayhi salam, they said, don't worry, we'll kill him, get rid of him, and then we'll be a very pious people. Yeah, we'll do tawbah to Allah, we'll become pious, and this is Yusuf's the reason why we feel like committing murder. And once we get rid of him, this is sometimes how people think. They think, this sin or this thing, they blame it on someone else. They don't see that the fault is inside of them. So it's important to recognize if you're committing a sin that you're at fault. That, you need to change yourself. It's not necessary that someone else out there is to blame. So anyway, so they say naqtal wa inna lahu lahafidun. And indeed, now look at this. Why do they need to emphasize words for? Why do they need to say inna for? Yeah, they didn't have to say that. They could have just said nahnu lahu lahafidun. So they use the word inna, which is used for emphasis. They add this lam as well, lahafidun. All of these things imply that they're trying to convince their father. The father's not believing them. Father is like, you can hear the father saying, no, you can't take the brother, you can't take him at all. Wa inna lahu lahafidun, and we will protect him. Okay, inna lahu lahafidun. And again, this is a jumla ismiya now. They could have said this, right? They could have said wa sanahfaduhu. Yeah, we will protect him. But remember I said to you, in Arabic language, when you bring a jumla ismiya, an ism, noun-based sentence, it has the meaning of being continuous, permanent. So they're trying to show their father, we are impressed exactly that, look, we are people who are known for protection. They're trying to convince their father that from day one, in the whole community, these guys are number one in protecting, which is ironic because, they've got a track record of getting Yusuf killed. Alright, so that's something which is strange as well. Allah is saying, Inna lahu lahafidun. What do you mean? You're protectors and you got your brother killed. That's wrong. So see, again, trying to impress. Now you see, their statement is not like Yusuf alayhi salam's statement. Yusuf alayhi salam, remember we said he mentioned some good qualities about himself. He said, Anni ufil kayla wa ana khayrul munzilin. So we said you're allowed to mention good qualities about yourself as long as they're true and as long as there's a good reason for it. And over here, even though there might be a good reason for why they're saying this, but they're lying though. Inna lahu lahafidun. They shouldn't be saying that. Yeah, because they're not always, okay, they should have said this, sanahfaduhu or sanuhafiduhu. but not inna lahu lahafidun. That's a total lie, that is. So remember, all of what they're saying early on is coming true now. They're trying to lie, deceive their father, impress their father. Okay, next. So as you can see, very interesting of how the precise, if you know Arabic language in detail, and this is my advice to those of you guys who've studied Arabic grammar, and the next step is for, if you studied like the basic Arabic grammar, go into advanced Arabic grammar. If you studied advanced, then you go into super advanced Arabic grammar. If you study Arabic grammar, go into balagha. Balagha, it gives you an understanding of the expressions, of the structure of words as well. And I actually did a course on balagha last year. I did one part of it, and the second part, inshallah, I'm writing up the syllabus for it. So I'm going to be delivering the second part, inshallah, soon, inshallah, which is going to be dealing with the different ways in the Quran, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings descriptions in the Quran, tashbihat in the Quran, and also the types of wording that Allah uses in the Quran as well. So I'm going to do a course on that, inshallah, and it's very important to study that if you really want to be able to understand why Allah brings certain words, or at least to start understanding that. So وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ, it's if you were to read a translation, or you didn't know this rule here, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between, because you see this kind of sentence, إِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ, there's probably about 10 ways you could have said that in Arabic, each by changing something in the wording, right? If you said, for example, like inna, if you had said, sorry, nahnu lahu hafidun, that would have meant something, it would have implied something else than what's implied here. If you had said, for example, like nuhafiz, that would imply something else. If you had taken this lam off here, it would have implied something else. If you had lahu, if you didn't bring it forward, if you had the word lahu and it came after hafidun, it would have meant something else. And by bringing a different form of this word, hafidun is the ism fa'il. If you had brought some other word, all of these things, subtle differences, they have an impact in expression in the Arabic language. Right? And for you guys who are studying Arabic, if you truly want to understand the Quran, my advice to you guys is study the depth of the Quran, of balagha, of Arabic grammar. A lot of people, when it comes to Arabic grammar, they don't see the point of studying Arabic grammar. They get a bit bored after a while. It's a bit dry. And they'll think, what's the point of studying this? We've understood it at this level. How far do we need to go into it? Trust me, go as further as possible. The further you go into Arabic grammar, the more you'll understand. Yeah, and I always read Arabic grammar books. Even though I've studied Arabic grammar and I've been teaching it for over 15, 16 years, I've been studying it and teaching it. Even till today, I always read an Arabic book on the side, and I'm writing my own syllabus on Arabic grammar as well. And I've put that course up as well, the pre-recorded lesson course. So and you can ask my wife as well. She'll tell you how much time I spend on Arabic grammar. So it's very, very important, guys. Trust me, the amount of Arabic grammar you've learned at this moment is just a fraction of what you need to learn. Go in depth into Arabic grammar, inshallah. Okay, so let's get back to this then. So now, okay, actually getting a bit late as well. Okay, so what we'll do is, okay, we'll do this verse, and then we'll stop. قال هل آمنكم عليه إلا كما أمنتكم على أخيه من قبل. So the father said, هل آمنكم, shall I trust you? Amana is from the present verb. So shall I trust you? Amina ya'manu. Hal amanukum, shall I trust you? Alayhi, upon Yusuf. In other words, shall I trust you with Yusuf? With Binyamin. You want me to trust you with Binyamin? Illa kama amintukum ala akhihi min qabl. Just like how I trusted you with his brother before. In other words, have you guys forgotten what you guys done with Yusuf? Remember, you told me that, let us take Yusuf, we're going to take care of him. Wa inna lahu lahafidun. Exactly the same statement they said over there, and it didn't manifest. So you want me to trust you like you trusted Yusuf? So you can see in his tone, he doesn't trust them. فَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ حَافِظٌ. And if you guys think that you guys are trustworthy, Allahu khayrun hafidhan. Allah is the best. Allah is the best in what? Hafidhan. Now this is mansoob, those who know the Arabic language, grammar. The word Allah is mubtada. Khayrun is considered to be the khabar. And hafidhan is considered to be the tamyiz. Okay, so hafidhan plus khayr is tamyiz and mumayyiz put together. All of that becomes the khabar of the word Allah. So Allah is the best with regards to protector. Allah is the best protector out there, in other words. And the reason you get this tamyiz is because it's, khair is a ism tafdeel. And when you get ism tafdeel, if you get a nakira word after it, that nakira word is tamyiz. Like for example, the word Allah, akbar. So the word akbar is ism tafdeel. So if you bring a nakira word after it, then that nakira word is mansoob, takes fatha, and it's called a tamyiz. And tamyiz basically means a clarifying word. Yeah, so for example, like if I had just said this, Allahu khair, Allah is the best. You want to know in what way is he the best? Like there's many ways he's the best, but what specific way do you want me to understand? So you bring the word hafidhan to clarify that. So Allahu khairun hafidhan. Allah is the best with regards to protection. With regards to being a protector, Allah is the best. Okay, that's called a tamyiz in Arabic, a clarifying word. Now, why does he say this? Because two reasons. Number one, he's refuting what they're saying. They've tried to emphasize that, look, Dad, we are the most trustworthy people. We are protectors of Binyamin. Don't worry about it. We're going to protect him. We are known for protection. We are. Yeah, we've got protection badges and license and authority from everyone. So he goes, no, wait a minute. Allah is the best protector. Why do you guys think that you guys are amazing protectors? The second thing he wants to point out is, in reality, it doesn't matter how much you try to protect, Allah is the protector. When you leave your house in the morning and you come back in the evening and your house is being protected, why was your house protected for? What was the reason for this? So the reason your house was protected was because Allah protected it. Doesn't matter if you put your alarm on. It doesn't matter if you lock the door. You could do all you like with the words of, you could do all you like with your house, but Allah himself is the ultimate protector. And if Allah does not protect your house, the thieves will be able to break into your house even though you put on all the alarm systems. Yeah, so this is why when we leave our house, we say tawakkaltu ala Allah. Yeah, when you leave your house, the dua you say is Bismillah, tawakkaltu ala Allah. In the name of Allah, I make Allah my wakil. I entrust Allah with all my affairs. So he's bringing them back to Allah. In other words, don't you think that you're the ones that will protect him? You're going on a long journey here. And this is not like going to the park with Yusuf alayhi salam. Going to the park should have been easy. Yeah, there shouldn't have been no fear, no danger over there. But with Binyamin, if you take him to Egypt, the path is going to be riddled with the hardships and difficulties. Robbers, thieves, illnesses, all sorts can happen on a journey. So he says, Allahu khairun hafidhan. Allah is the best protector. And this is something we need to remember as well. In your lives, in our lives, that Allah is the one who protects us all the time. And when Allah takes away his protection, that's when we get ill. And Allah takes away his protection, that's when hardships come to us. So we always seek the protection of Allah. Allahu khairun hafidhan. Wa huwa arhamur rahimin. So then he says, wa huwa, and he is the most merciful of the merciful ones. Arhamur rahimin. Yeah, so notice, both jumlas are ismiyas. Again, why use jumla ismiyas in both of them? Because like we said, jumla ismiya has the meaning of permanency, has the meaning of emphasis, has the meaning of strength. So Allah is always the best protector. You can protect, but now and again. Allah is always the best protector. And secondly, Arhamur Rahimin, Allah is always the most merciful of the merciful ones. Now, why is he bringing Allah's mercy into this? This is interesting. Because the topic, you only mention mercy when, for example, someone's done something wrong. Or, for example, someone deserves punishment. Something like that. So here, Okay, remember here, what's happening over here? The brothers are people who consider themselves protectors, but someone can be a protector, but it doesn't mean that they're merciful, that they're kind. They can protect someone in a harsh way. Yeah, like for example, let's say you got a bodyguard to protect you, and let's say you're walking down the street and someone's trying to attack you. So the bodyguard would try to cover you up, might squeeze you, might push you, just to protect you. So you go through a lot of difficulty, and he's not being kind to you. Whereas Allah being the Hafiz, Allah being a protecting, He is so protecting that His protection is done in a way of mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of kindness. And the second thing that Yaqub alayhi salam, this is his statement here, is indicating towards why do we go through difficulties then in life? If Allah is the protector, the best protector, why is it sometimes in life that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts us into hardships? So this is showing this is how Allah's mercy works. Sometimes He puts us into hardships, He gives us illnesses, He gives us family problems, He gives us financial problems, He puts us into all these issues as a test from Him, because this is part of His mercy. Sometimes a person, if they don't go through a difficulty, they don't become closer to Allah. Many people actually find Allah, they come back to Allah when they go through family problems, when they've gone through financial problems, they've lost their job or some other way, right? And this is the nature of mankind as well, that they turn to Allah when they lose all hope in the world. So وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ, He is the most merciful of the merciful ones. A third point that Yaqub alayhi salam wants to indicate with this, وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ, is bringing us back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once again. That look, all of what's happened, the poverty, the famine, the drought, the travel to Egypt and getting all of this, at the end of it, you must always turn back to Allah. He is the most merciful of the merciful ones. If He wants to protect you, if He wants to be kind to you, if He wants to stop anything bad from happening to you, turn back to Allah Ta'ala. Huwa arhamur rahimin. Yusuf alayhi salam can be very kind. He can be the minister of Egypt, because they don't know it's Yusuf. He might be very generous and he might be very hosting, but Allah is ultimately the one who is the most merciful one. Wa huwa arhamur rahimin. Okay, so he wants to say this. Another point that Yaqub alayhi salam is doing here is this. Yaqub alayhi salam, it seems as though he is going to allow them to take Binyamin with them. But what Yaqub alayhi salam wants them to do is he wants to give them tarbiyah. He wants them to get back to Allah Ta'ala. He wants them to become strong in their faith. Because whatever happens is that if a person has faith in Allah Ta'ala, is loyal to Allah Ta'ala, they will be loyal to other people as well. And when a person loses faith in Allah, does not have loyalty to Allah Ta'ala, then that person will not have loyalty to other people as well. Will cheat them, will deceive them. And he knows that the sons are trying to use fancy words to try and impress the father. And ultimately, you should always remember that Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's there, and He's the one that we need to turn to all the time. So this is why when you have children, when you have students, when you have friends, always remind them of Allah. Always bring Allah, the kindness of Allah, the mercy of Allah. And it's through the mercy of Allah that we get the love of Allah. Yeah, and people don't have a connection with Allah except through love of Allah. Yeah, you can't have a connection of Allah by putting the fear of Allah into people's hearts. People become close to Islam, people become close to Allah, recognizing those attributes that create love in our hearts. If we know that Allah is the one that enables our hearts to beat all the time, and when we go to sleep, He allows our lungs to move, to open and close. He allows our food to digest in our bodies. He allows the cells to regenerate. He allows us to be able to get up in the morning. And you think all night, all those hours, Allah's been taking care of our bodies all that time. He's the Hafiz, the best protector He is. Arhamur, look how kind He is. Look how merciful He is. He could have destroyed us. He could have made our hearts stop beating. He could have stopped the blood from going around our body. And if that had happened, we wouldn't wake up in the morning. So, Huwa Arhamur Rahimin. He's creating the love of Allah in their hearts as well. Okay, alhamdulillah. Okay, we'll stop there. It's getting a bit late, that this can carry on all night. And We'd never get bored of the words of Allah. And this is something amazing about the words of Allah. Our teachers say to us, there's two things that students or people will never get bored of. One is they'll never get bored of listening to the words of Allah, listening to the Quran, understanding the Quran. And the second is they'll never get bored of the seerah, the life of the Prophet ﷺ. And this is something you can experience yourself, that seerah lessons and tafsir lessons are things that can go on for a long time, and the audience will remain captivated with it. So alhamdulillah, we've reached up to here, and lots of lessons that we've learned from this. So you can put in the comments as well, what have you guys learnt, what things have you guys benefited from in today's lesson. And it's always important that sometimes maybe something came to our minds that another person didn't get. So by us mentioning something, that inspires other people to do good as well. Yeah, other students as well will see some inspiration in your words maybe. And later, maybe not now, but maybe later on. So write down in the comments, inshallah, what you benefited, and inshallah, and if you have any questions as well, if you have any questions related to Surah Yusuf, or if you have any general questions as well, inshallah, I'll try to answer them as well. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yeah, guys, any questions? Yeah, definitely. Yusuf alayhi salam nature was that our prophet. And if you notice, all the prophets of Allah Ta'ala, their nature was divinely inspired as well. All the nature of all the prophets in the Quran, they had amazing qualities. The Prophet ﷺ was the prime example of that as well. So these amazing qualities that they had is something that we should take from as well. Yeah, these qualities about Yusuf alayhi salam being kind to the guests, and filling their measure, the amount they came to pay for. And that's also important when it comes to dealing with other people as well. Never cheat other people. Yeah, if you're selling something, if you're selling a mobile and it's damaged or something, always tell the person you're selling it to, look, the mobile is damaged, by the way. Yeah, and these are all things that create trust inside of people as well. And you want people to trust you, because if they trust you, they'll come closer to Islam. And if they distrust you, then all it's going to do is it's just going to make people think, you know what, if he's like that, if she's like that, what's the point of becoming a Muslim then? What's the point of worshipping, praying salah? Yeah, any other questions, guys? You guys are very quiet today, mashallah. Hope the weather's not got to you. No? Alright, guys, Jazakallah khair. Thank you for attending. Alhamdulillah, may Allah accept all of our efforts. And if you have any questions, inshallah, you can post them on, email me, or you can post them on YouTube, inshallah, Facebook, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Have a nice night, guys. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.